Okay, so this is my Stars on Mars finale review. Um, all right. Um basically this was very mission centric, more so than all the others. They started off by first off, Adam and Portia had the cutest relationship. They were having so much fun. Um But they got right to the task, and the first part was everybody had to ask everyone else questions. Now, what we saw was just one person asking another person a question. So we only heard one question per person. So I assume that they just cut out the rest, not that um everyone had to just ask one question. So who knows what the rest of the questions were like. But they they were using that to decide, and they were going to vote who is going to be mission critical. Now, first off, that's a very stupid way of deciding who's mission critical. Secondly, you knew what was going to happen because the OG3 had the numbers, so they were, of course, going to vote for each other. So it's not like last week where Shatner basically led a discussion as to who should be mission critical between Marshawn and Portia. Why not do that? No. Okay, what did you think of this person's answers? What did you think of that person's answers? Who do you think is mission critical and why? Instead, they did just what you knew was going to happen. If they did it in such a way that the OG3 would win, because of course they would. Now, they did go after Tinashe for putting Paul before Kat, and it was because Tinashe, as much as she liked Kat, figured that, she was, coming really, really gunning for the win, being strategic, win at all cost mentality. So she didn't care for that. She didn't care for the fact that, um, that she used, like them, like her cooking for them, not as a social aspect or the fact that, she just happens to love to cook, but she used it as strategy to, oh, they're not going to want to get rid of me because I cook so well. So that seriously offended Tinashe's sensibilities, so she put Paul in front of Kat simply for that fact. Um, it it sucked in a way. I really would have rather that it was just the one mission, which was to answer the questions. Because, well, first off, though the OG3 would, in theory, have a leg up again, because in theory they would have been reading the HAB manual for a lot longer than Paul and Kat. However, it's also a matter of how inquisitive people are, or in the case of the Galileo question, how much you paid attention in freaking school. Because this wasn't like a college age class that you'd have to take in order to know that Galileo was the first to see Mars. That was actually, I think that might have been elementary school still. Possibly junior high, but I'm leaning towards elementary school. So, which makes me wonder, what the hell did this generation learn in elementary school? I'm not including Portia, because Portia is in her, I think she's in her 40s. Now, I have to admit, I also got the iron oxide one, and I'm just screaming that it's iron oxide. But I was also screaming that it was Galileo. The iron oxide one, I'm like, okay, I can understand that they wouldn't know that. There was a lot of really specific questions that you would probably either know it from a HAB manual or a more advanced course in astronomy. But the Galileo one, that just I was screaming at Portia and Tinashe because you shouldn't be learning this from the HAB manual. This was something you learned in elementary school. So I was very disappointed in both of them. So, but anyway, so but like I said, that should have been just the one and only challenge because it would have been interesting to see who the two smartest people were because Tinashe was ever so slightly above Portia in this challenge, but so it would have been nice to see how Kat or Paul would have done. How much they've read the HAB manual or paid attention in school. Like I said, the only question if I recall correctly, the only question that actually was something that you could have just learned in school was the Galileo one. I'm not I don't remember all the questions and I couldn't find them online because I think that's the only one that was like, yeah, that's pretty obvious. Most of those questions were really specific, so yeah, not necessarily something you would learn in primary or secondary school. Now, so Adam ended up with a huge lead, and Tinashe managed to catch up because apparently she has a lead foot, which under the circumstances worked well because she caught up. But Shatner even was like, "Whoa," to the way she was driving. And which makes me wonder why, Marshawn never let Tinashe drive because there was that one mission where they actually failed. I don't know, it probably would have gone quicker if, someone with a lead foot was driving, but um so Adam decided that he's never read an instruction manual in his life. He's not going to start now. Okay, fine. So then he realized that, oh, I'm messing this whole thing up because the cables have different lengths. Okay. For someone who's put computers together, I'm going to say that you don't necessarily know right up front that that's going to happen. So, okay, I'll give him that. And so he was, struggling, and then finally he decides to look at the manual at the point that Tinashe is even with him, or possibly one cable ahead of him. I'm not sure. And so then Tinashe gets to the wires first, but she can't figure out the wires to save her life. And Adam is like, what is this, 1993? Why are we still using wires? Adam, I would like to introduce you to NASA. Do they strike you as a wireless organization? But anyway, Tinashe finally asked Adam for help, which he gave. And I actually found out later, I looked at some of the headlines, and Adam actually wanted Tinashe to win. And which makes me wonder why he ever looked at the manual to begin with then, because just keep doing your bullheaded, I'm not going to read the instructions thing, and just let Tinashe win. Or maybe because Shatner was, in his words, yelling at him, maybe he figured, well, I guess I've got to make this look good. And unfortunately, he won. So he sent his message, and first you see it going on Times Square. So, okay, you think, well, maybe they actually did do this as some sort of marketing for the show. But then we see his message in St. Petersburg, in Red Square, which, especially considering the climate, like the fact that there's a war going on, they've invaded Ukraine. And at most this was filmed last year, maybe. So the war was going on. I'm going to say the rest of that was bullshit. It was just, I don't know, AI generated, computer generated, whatever. But it wasn't real. So, yeah. Adam Adam had some good one-liners, like the like saying that he wanted to have diarrhea but he was wearing white because you are notoriously able to hold in diarrhea. So Adam, I'm sort of happy because I like Adam. But yes, I agree with him. Tinashe should have won this because she was awesome throughout the season. She should have won. And all I can say is, why did you not just, refuse to look at the manual and just keep struggling? And then she probably would have. But he probably figured, okay, she's even with me. She's going to take control so I can, start acting like I actually want to win this. And it just didn't work out. So, but yeah. I think I've said at the beginning of this show that I would find it, I just do not believe that this is going to be renewed. But then again, I never thought that Big Brother would be a thing. And it is. So it's possible that they'll still do it. I just, I'm not going to hold my breath. But it was a fun, silly show, and it was a nice show that you didn't have to think very hard or at all. But with that, I will see you guys in the next video.